welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and today I'm joined by two podcast hosts from a very, very, very important union podcast. A union podcast that most of you guys, I'm sure, have listened to. I'm joined today by AJ and Luke of the Doopy Brothers podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Good, man. Happy to be on.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're excited.
No problem. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And I guess first, before I even ask you guys how you guys became a fan of Philadelphia Union, if there's people that are listening that haven't heard about you guys, haven't heard your podcast, can you tell us a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, so we're just two brothers who have been Union fans since the beginning. We live down in Virginia, and we're just diehard fans that decided to start a podcast basically this time last year, and we've been doing it ever since, and we're having fun with it.
Yeah, we grew up there in Chester County, so always been Philly guys. We were kind of stuck going to DC games for the first 15 years. Been diehard since the beginning, and then now we're in Virginia together, which is pretty cool. We're still season ticket holders with our dad who lives up there, and we get up to probably about 90% of the games. Yeah. One of the two of us is at least up there. Pretty much my wife and his girlfriend said, like, you guys got to stop talking union stuff whenever we get together. And so then we decided, let's make a podcast about it.
Yeah, so we channel into this podcast and away from our significant others.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I knew the feeling there. It's like so many of my friends, they're like, man, why we don't care about this? Like, why do you keep telling us and everything? And I'm like, okay, well, because I used to cover the English Premier League with my old co-host Tyler, and right. Work kind of changed things around and everything. And I'm like, man, I go up to Talent Energy pretty much every single game last season. And I'm like, well, I still want a podcast and everything, so I'll just talk about the union and everything. And it's like, well, now people can't yell at me for talking too much union. Like, I can go and interview people. I can go talk to myself. It doesn't matter. It's like, I'm doing what I love. And I love you guys' Twitter bio. It says, two brothers who love the union more than each other. I mean, that's a perfect slogan right there.
Yeah, I'd say it's basically accurate.
Yeah, I think it's all in consensus there. Welcome to the podcast family of Philly. The Philly Twitter, Philly podcast. Everyone's such a cool little community we got together. Last week we got to meet up with some other content providers, and it's just amazing how nice and friendly everyone is. We're all on the same team, so we're all real happy to have the Free Kick Pod join in the podcast family.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate these words. I mean, because I'm good friends with Dave Knittel, and I know you guys were on Bruce Talking Soccer, I believe, during the summertime. He interviewed you guys. And so I knew of your podcast, and then when I was searching and everything, I was like, okay, there's a couple other union podcasts and everything. I was like, I don't know how people are going to feel with me coming in the territory and everything, but, as long as everybody has the same mindset that we're all covering the same team, we all love the same team, then I don't see why there can't be more than one. But why don't you guys tell me how you guys became a fan of Philadelphia Union? I know you guys said you guys are from up there and everything, but when did it all start for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like soccer has just been like kind of a part of our family since our whole life. We grew up playing soccer in our backyard, all the time. So it's kind of a natural process to become Union fans. Once a team came to Philly, there was really no other choice for us. Like AJ said earlier, we went to DC United games just to be involved with MLS because we liked following MLS. But once Philly got the team, it's like that's it. That we were just obsessed since day one.
What about you, AJ? Same thing?
Yeah, same thing. So the team came around. I was in college when it really began. So I was a little busy in college, drinking a little too much. Luke was in high school drinking too much.
I don't know about that.
So, I mean, being in college, I kind of was paying attention, had a lot going on. And then once I graduated, it was, not that life slowed down, but I got a lot less exciting. So I was able to pay more attention to soccer on the weekends and made more trips up and stuff. So, yeah, pretty much from the beginning, just kind of the same stuff as a lot of other guys. And Philly's just so thankful to finally have a team in the league.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And it's like, we just saw this week that Charlotte got a new MLS team and they paid over $300 million and everything. And a lot of people are saying on social media, it's like, okay, well, who's the next major market? Is it going to be Baltimore? Is it going to be Phoenix and everything? So myself being from Maryland and everything, it's like, what? I'm way too invested if Baltimore ever gets a team. I don't care if they're in my backyard and everything. Philly's a team for me. I made that commitment, and so many people are like, well, you got DC United right down the road and everything. And it's like, no, I don't want to deal with the traffic and everything. And I mean, people are like, what, your favorite soccer player, Wayne Rooney's down there since I'm a Manchester United fan. I'm like, man, I don't care. I'm already committed to this team and everything. So, I mean, it's great if Baltimore gets a team. It's great if they don't. It's Philly Union until I die.
Yeah, like we went to those DC United games, and I would say, I guess you could say we were fans in that time, but then like I never really felt that connected to the team. So like once the Union became a team, it's like I actually felt a connection and a draw towards the Union. So like it really, there's really no other option once they came to MLS.
Yeah, so Todd, did you grow up around Philly, or have you always been in Maryland?
No, I've always been in Maryland, born and raised and everything. So I mean, I really have no connections to be a Philadelphia fan. I mean, so I don't know how this is going to go with you guys, but I'm a Pittsburgh.
I was going to say even more credit to you then for sticking with the commitment and stuff and having that strong passion. So more power to you.
Yeah, I feel like not always the most attractive of teams to root for if you don't have that connection. So it's props to you.
Yeah, I mean, I became a fan in 2017, so I feel like I came on kind of at the right time and everything. So you guys being fans since day one, basically, you guys have seen a lot of ups and downs. So I feel like I caught it when things started getting good and everything. So I don't really have that whole mindset of, it's another Philly choke job. And so, well, they're not going to do it. So hopefully I never see that in my lifetime. But, in all sports, it's bound to happen to teams every now and then.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely on an upward trajectory. So hopefully it stays like that for a couple of years.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I feel like I'm a weird fan because, like, I like the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm sure a lot of listeners are like, oh, boo, because, I mean, everybody's an Eagles fan. I'm not
have
huge.
A good night, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not a huge NFL fan. I mean, soccer has always been my number one passion and everything. So if people want to talk NFL and everything, it's like it's great if the Steelers win. It's okay if they lose too. I don't get upset. But like if the Union lose or win, then that's when I start to get emotional. And if Manchester United wins or loses, or same with England, yeah, that's when people want to try to avoid me, especially if it's a bad performance and everything. So I feel like it's kind of weird, being a Steeler fan and then a Philly fan. But I don't regret it at all, like I said. But moving on to the 2019 season, what are some of your favorite moments from last season? And don't say the playoff win.
All right, yeah, we didn't even like the playoff win. So no, just kidding. So me and Luke, we took a trip out to Minnesota actually for that game, and so that's going to be my number one moment. Was that Minnesota come from behind 3-2 win? We went out there with intentions to go to check out their stadium. I mean, that place is unbelievable. By far the nicest place I've ever watched soccer in. And I guess that was only like their second. No, it was one of their early home games.
Right.
They had not been beaten at Allianz Field yet. So we were their first defeat at home. And I'm also an Auston Trusty fan. I bought his jersey this year. So to be up in the stands wearing his jersey, watching him score that goal, it was a pretty big moment. They have a great brew hall there in that stadium, which had like 90 beers on tap, and I had all of them. I think I don't remember them. But yeah, and the fans were just unbelievably nice. Walking around the stadium in an away team's jersey, people kept coming up to us, welcoming us to the stadium. We were invited out to a brewery after the game to hang out with their supporters. Granted, we didn't get to that, and it was just a great trip. We also saw Minneapolis City, their MPLS team in Minneapolis, play in a small stadium. So we had a cool soccer experience there. And we made it out to a store called Talisman Caps, which is an awesome little soccer business. If anyone's looking for some cool soccer gear, Talisman Caps is always a cool place to get some gear from. So it was just like this overall amazing soccer weekend. Oh, it was also Champions League final.
Oh yeah, we watched Liverpool win in like an awesome like British pub. So it was just unbelievable. And then to top it all off with this Union game where we just had our kind of backs up against the wall. We blocked like 14 shots. It was a crazy, weird game. Watching these defenders throw themselves in front of the ball. It was just this full team effort. Sergio Santos had some brilliant moments. I remember he made like a full field run. Yeah, he like drew the foul to create the Harris goal. And then that Harris free kick. Holy smokes, what a hit that was. So it was just this game that capped off this weekend for us. That was just a soccer experience that me and Luke got to share, and it's not one I'll ever forget.
What about you, Luke? Are you going to take that the same as AJ as one of your games, or are you going to give me something different? I mean, I definitely can't top that weekend, but I'll add a different memory. It was another away game. Not really a trip for us since we're in Virginia, but the DC United away game. It was the
the 5-1 beatdown on DC was just such a fun game to be at. I watched AJ had other seats with one of his friends, so our dad came down and I sat with him, and we were like 2 sections away from the Sons of Benedictine Orders, and they're singing the whole game, and it was just such a great game to just beat down DC, which is one of our least favorite teams in the league. And we heard afterwards what Ali Bedoya did with his goal celebration. It was just, I don't know, it just felt like a great time to be a Union fan after that game. It was just so much fun.
Yeah, and DC for us is that team that neither of us really like. Like, Grant, we used to like them, but we didn't have Philly.
Yeah, we definitely did total 180 on that.
Yeah, because now it's like we're in DC United land, Redskins Nation, and all that kind of stuff. So we're just kind of in this DC garbage place, and so for us to go up there and beat up on them so convincingly,
it felt so good.
And then the whole Bedoya thing, it's just this, I mean, that's a moment that's bigger than sports.
Yeah.
And to be front and center for that was just an incredible night.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I want to go back to what you said, AJ, that Minnesota victory. I know I've never went to an away game, and hopefully that changes for this upcoming season. But I did put that in my top 3 and everything. And I'm surprised not a lot of people brought that up. You guys are the first people that have brought that up. I mean, the 3-2 comeback victory, like you said, the Harris goal, Auston Trusty getting the goal near stoppage time. I mean, it was just an unbelievable game, like you said. The first team to come into Minnesota's home and beat them and everything. And, that's when I started thinking that the Union were for real that this season was going on the road. And I remember Dave Knedel telling me, if you're serious about MLS and everything, pay attention to what teams do on the road, because once you see teams get results on the road, they're going to make some noise throughout the season. And so it's like watching results back and forth, when away teams go there and they get a point, I'm like, wow, they got a really, really good point and everything, because most of the time it's the home teams winning and everything. So for the Union to go in there and get that 3-2 victory, I was like, yeah, there's something special about this team going forward.
Yeah, definitely. And Minnesota's like a good team. It wasn't like we went to, I don't know who was bad this year, but I guess Kansas City wasn't good, but they're always tough away. But like Minnesota's like a legit team. They were in the playoffs too, just like DC was in the playoffs. So that's 2 away wins that we got to pick up. And so you're right. That's a great thing to pay attention to as you watch MLS.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess I'll just take a third game. I know you guys both gave 1 game apiece and everything, but I feel like if we keep going back and forth, we'll be here forever. But just whichever one of you guys want to go give your last game, that's fine.
All right, so I'll go ahead with the last Atlanta game, because we had both Atlanta games on our list, but for different reasons. The last one, which I know has been mentioned with your other guests, but we had a little bit of a different watching experience because we were at the beach. We go to Bethany Beach with our family. We have a house up there. And so we go up there, and the whole time we're debating, like, do we just sneak out pretty much and drive up to the stadium, or do we just sit and we don't have internet at our beach house, so we have to go to the clubhouse to watch. The clubhouse closes though, so we have to sit out on this pool deck.
We had to watch from our dad's like 10-year-old iPad, because that was the only thing that we could get connection to.
And so we're sitting in the dark on this patio. There's no lights. We just have this little iPad that the 3 of us are huddled around. And we just watched this amazing game unfold, and we're just screaming in the dark. I mean, it was just kind of a neat, intimate little watch party that
at halftime we ran back to the house to grab some extra beer and then bring back before the game started again. It was just such a unique experience that we'll never forget. And the game result was just so fun to watch and just added to our memories of that game.
Man, I'm not even going to ask you about the game. Like, how'd you guys get a 10-year-old iPad to still work? I know I have an old iPod, and that thing doesn't even turn on anymore. It's like...
It was a miracle.
Yeah, because we had like all these different ways, like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, then we got this and this and this. And then we were literally down to our last resort. Yeah. And somehow this thing found enough signal to pick up the game. It was, we were really dying.
We were stressing out because we knew how big this game was. And we knew like, we weren't going to be able to make it up to the game because this is a family weekend. We don't want to, get our family mad. And so we're stressing the whole time before this game started. And then it just worked out to be this really interesting watch party that we'll never forget.
The soccer gods were in our favor.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if you would have told people before that game started the struggle that you guys went through, we should have known that we were in for a good night. So
that's right.
Yeah. I'll just give you guys the reason that we got the victory. So props to you guys. Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
We'll
Can't wait to do it again.
But so I know you guys told me on Twitter that you guys are going to give me a different opinion on this Bimbo deal that most people have given me. So whichever one of you guys want to give your thoughts first, go ahead.
So I know people are your past couple guests have been okay and happy with the Bimbo re-signing, and I totally get it. Business-wise, if they're giving us the best deal, totally get it. I understand they've been around for 10 years, so it's been a staple. I know they're an international business. They're recognized on other soccer teams, so I understand all that. But I've got so many points, man. I've been a little triggered. Just some Twitter stuff. You see these people on Twitter kind of going back and forth, and I try to stay out of it, but I was excited to come on and talk about it. So the first thing is, like, you can't ignore people's feelings about it. So, like, some people are like, well, if they feel like they can't wear that shirt, that's on them. And it's like, well, no, you can't ignore that they feel that way. That's a legit feeling that someone has. They don't want to wear a shirt with the word Bimbo on it. So it's like, well, if they don't know what Bimbo is, then go research it before you have a feeling. And so I literally typed Bimbo into Google, and the first thing that came up was something about a woman. The next thing I did was I went to Wikipedia. I typed in Bimbo, same thing came up. So I was like, well, if you ask someone to go research Bimbo, odds are it's not going to turn out real well. So you might not want people to do that right away. I asked my wife, I was like, hey, like, how would you feel about wearing a Union jersey to school? So she's a school teacher, and she's like, I could never do it because of the sticker on the front. I was like, all right, yeah, I understand. And she said, the only place I would feel comfortable wearing it would be the stadium. I was like, all right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I was like, thanks for giving me a woman's opinion. I have heard other fans say, and like diehard Union fans, Sons of Ben's, say, like, I would never buy a jersey until they change the sponsorship. So I'm excited for said fans for this year, since they conceded and are going to have an alternate sponsor on the away kit. So I think that's a real smart move. So just some of my feelings about it. And also the deal business wise, the first deal that we had was
like 3 million, 4 million
for several years. And then this next one was under 3 million. And then this third deal, we don't know the numbers. So if they're not announcing the numbers, it makes me feel like it might be even less. So are we really at the point where this league is growing and you see these expansion teams paying over $300 million to come into the league, and our jersey sponsorship deal is going down? I don't know if there's a better option. I assume not. I mean, if there's a better option, of course, the union would probably take it. But it's just a shame that for less money, we still have the same sponsor that we've had for the past 10 years. And unfortunately, I feel like this has been a conversation that's been going on for 10 years. And it's kind of just tiring. I'm just tired of hearing the same conversation. And I wish it kind of wasn't a conversation, which I think Luke is gonna.
Yeah. I'll just add just one point. Just the fact that it's a topic, it's a discussion. There's people that have multiple opinions about this thing. Like, that just means that there's something off about this sponsor. Because, like, I mean, as soccer fans, we've already had to concede the fact that if we're gonna support our team, we're gonna have to wear a big sponsor on the front of our chest. So if the least we could get is a sponsor that we can look past and then focus more on the team crest and the team jersey rather than just getting hung up on this sponsor. I mean, I'd rather have just a random insurance company that you can look past, like Atlanta or whatever, and not have it be a discussion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I think that's the one thing that every single fan could probably agree on, that the less sponsors on a shirt, the cleaner the shirt is, which means the better it is. But I get everybody's looking at it from a business standpoint. That's why I like the Roma kits so much and everything, when they used to be just the badge and then the kit color. I mean, they look so slick and everything. And now you have, like, if you look in teams in Brazil, or if you look in teams in the Korean leagues, I mean, they got all these different sleeve sponsors, and it's like now it's like coming to that's a very, very good point right there. It's like it's becoming a point where it's really not a soccer jersey anymore, and it's like, okay, it seems like these teams care more about the money than they do the product that they're putting on the field and everything. And I hope that MLS doesn't get to that point. I know we're seeing it over in England with the sleeve sponsors and everything, and
Angry Birds.
Yeah, Everton. There you go. So I hope MLS doesn't get to that point. So I appreciate you guys giving your opinion and everything, because I really do want to hear everybody's opinion. And like a lot of people have said, I feel like it's a minority of people that have a problem with it, but it's still, like you said, AJ, it's people that matter. It's like, it's an emotion you feel and everything. And so it's like, you got to do what you can do to please everybody, and what they're doing with the secondary jerseys, step in the right direction.
Oh yeah, definitely. Very excited for that.
It's definitely good that they're at least it's obviously is a good partner that they have with Bimbo. So it's good that they're again having that secondary kit with a different brand, and even like using the union colors on the Bimbo logo like they did last year is definitely a good step forward to make it be able to look past that.
And I've always thought, like, what if a stadium shop would offer a jersey without the logo, but maybe for an extra $50 or something, and then they split the 25, like 25, 25. I know a sponsorship would never do that, but I would pay like an extra $50 for a clean jersey with no sponsorship on the front. I know a sponsor would never do that because that goes against the whole idea of, them paying for this space on the front of the jersey. But I always wish that I had that option because I would pay the extra money for a jersey without the sticker on the front.
Yeah, I feel like, because I think I saw on Twitter, somebody made Bimbo, like it said Dupe and Band-Aid.
Yeah.
I forget the other names and everything. I was like, okay, well, it's obvious somebody feels some way. And they were like, yeah, we're giving them away in the parking lots and everything. So I'll be curious to see next season how many people we see walk around with Dupe and just all the other sayings on that shirt.
It's funny. We met him last week, actually. Renee, one of the nicest guys. And he gave us one. I've got one right behind me that says Dupe on it. And I saw it on Twitter then and just randomly met him last weekend. And yeah, one of the nicest guys. And yeah, like you said, it'll be interesting to see how many people choose to cover up Bimbo with, I think he had Buns, Dupe,
and Mimbo.
And
he said he used Mimbo just to be in solidarity with the Bimbo logo, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, that is. It is really funny. So I knew Dupe, but I couldn't think of the other two. So I'm glad you guys brought it up. And now if there's people listening that don't like the Bimbo jerseys, well, now you have options. If you just go meet this guy in the parking lot, and he'll give you one of the 3 stickers to put on your kit. But something I'm really excited for is we finally got our first off-season rumor a couple days ago. And I asked my good friend Jordan Floyd, who's writing a book, Red Wine and Arepas, a history of Venezuelan soccer. And he was on my podcast in August before I switched everything over to the Union and everything. And so I asked him about this player that apparently is linked to the Union, Jose Andres Martinez. He's a 25-year-old center defensive midfielder. And Jordan said he asked a group of football journalists and fans, and they said he's linked to Tomas Raikon. I hope I'm saying that name right. A Venezuelan soccer player playing over in Serie A for his attitude and style. He adds to the attack, and he's very quick. He's good enough, Jordan believes, for MLS. He's hoping that if Jose moves to MLS, that it could springboard him into the national team for Venezuela. He played in the Copa Libertadores in the Venezuelan league last season. The team that he was playing for is Zulia. I'm probably saying that wrong, but I'm giving it my best. They lost one of the best players this season, and they just lost their head coach. And Jordan believes that he is captain material. So, having Jordan give me a kind of insight and everything, this sounds like a promising player because we lost Harris and everything. And it's finally nice to see a rumor. Do you guys think this could be somebody the Union sign, or do you guys think it's just a rumor?
It's hard to say with, we don't have any of that inside information, but
yeah, props to you.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. But it's an interesting signing. It feels like it's one that makes sense on paper with how much he would cost and the position he plays and how he plays it. I feel like that would definitely a good hole to fill, and that's one that I'm probably most concerned about, filling that number 6 role. And I like the idea of getting a quicker, more defensive minded number 6 to fill the Harris role. So I'm interested in it. Hopefully it's something that is real and goes through. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, he can play his primary position's the number 6, but he can fill in at right back. And Jordan couldn't give me an idea when his contract expires, but if you go on Transfer Market, which I know isn't the best for news and everything, they have him listed at around 400,000. So Union wouldn't have to break the bank if they get this guy, and he's 25 years old, so it's not like he's old. And I get a sense from the Union that they want to go younger and everything, with not bringing back Harris, with getting rid of Fafa. It's yet to be seen if they bring back El Senior, and I guess that's what I'm going to move on to next with you guys. Do you guys think Colin or El Senior would be back next season?
For El Senior, I think it all comes down to kind of cost-benefit analysis, because you're not getting 90 minutes. You're hoping to get the best 20 to 30 minutes that you can out of him, and you don't want to be paying an extreme amount for him. So it's just how many dollars is each of his minutes kind of worth. as we saw this year with the Red Bull game and several other games, he can make his minutes worth a whole lot more than many other guys can in 30 minutes. I would hate to lose him. He's one of the most fun players to watch, but if we have to pay too much money for him, I don't know if it's worth it when we could use that money for potentially a starter or two guys off the bench or something, two role players. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, again, I love Lucino. I think it'd be great to have it back on a cheaper contract, but I would like us to not have to always try to rely on him coming off the bench and maybe have a couple of different other options. If we needed an attacking spark in like a late game, late second half, like option off the bench, I think maybe having someone other than Lucino to rely on might be a nice addition to our team.
Although now that we don't have Fafa, we don't have as many options off the bench.
Right,
I guess
yeah.
we might have Fontana.
Yeah, I mean,
might
maybe
have a striker. I mean, we've got a couple strikers, but
sure, and there could be some additional signings to help out with that. But
of course,
I don't know. I just hope we don't have to rely on Lucino as much next year compared to last year.
Yeah, and then obviously Jamiro is out of contract as his loan expired, and we'll get to Jamiro a little bit later on. But as I keep asking this question, will El Senior, will Colin be back? It kind of worries me that, we haven't heard anything about El Senior. And, I'm kind of at the point where I think maybe El Senior is asking for too much money. And, the union are like, okay, well, let's fill out other areas of the team before we consider bringing you back. So I feel like the union, and again, I have no inside information, what they're doing and everything. And I feel like a lot of people don't. So, I mean, that's why it's the off season. There's a lot of speculation going on. But I feel like, there's a real possible chance that El Senior won't be back because he knows that he's going to be coming off the bench. And I feel like El Senior is a player who still wants to start, even though he's 34, 35 years old. But, to kind of compromise him, I feel like he's a player who's going to ask for a little bit more money if he's just going to be on the bench and everything. And I don't know, maybe he goes to an Inter Miami. Maybe he goes to a Nashville. I mean, they picked up a couple union players. I don't know. I'm just speculating. It's not promising to me to see that we're almost at the end of December and still we haven't heard anything about El Senior.
Yeah, totally agree. And it kind of goes for some of the other guys you mentioned. I know you said we'll get into Monteiro, but like Colin, I feel like that's another one they might be waiting on just to kind of see what kind of happens with other spots on the field. I could take him or leave him, honestly. I know Steele has a guy, Ben Afemu, who is a strong center back who they could be bringing up. But again, you can't rely on three guys around the age of 20 to be the
carry
center
the whole season.
Yeah,
you definitely need some veteran leadership in the back. And I think Colin definitely fits that role. I don't like. There's obviously better options, but he'll do is basically how I see him. But
he did have a good mic'd up over the season. I remember listening to it, and that made me really like him.
Yeah, and he had a cool interview with Adam Kahn for the Union, and that just made me like him more. He seems like a good guy and good guy to have in the locker room. So yeah, it's like I wouldn't mind keeping him, but they could definitely upgrade there too.
Absolutely. Now, what are you guys' thoughts on Fafa Picault getting traded to FC Dallas for $370,000, and then Auston Trusty? I know you said AJ bought his jersey, getting traded to Colorado for $750,000.
Luke, I'll let you talk Fafa, then I'll talk Trusty.
Okay, yeah, for the Fafa, I think it makes a lot of sense. We kind of, I assumed Fafa wasn't going to be back next year just because he's definitely more of a winger. I think he did have a decent season last year, fitting into the secondary striker role, and he was always working hard and
really good
active.
on the press.
Yeah, but I just feel like he's definitely a more natural winger. So finding a team where he could play that position and get more minutes in that position makes a lot of sense for him personally. And also, it seems like a good business. We got a good amount of money back for an asset that we probably weren't going to use as much, and Dallas got a good pickup. So I think it's a win-win all around for that one.
And I'll piggyback off that with Trusty. So yeah, I bought his jersey last year. Luke kind of talked me into it. I was between a couple guys, Bedoya, Mark McKenzie, and Trusty. I assumed McKenzie would be going to Europe sooner than later. And so I thought Trusty would be a safe bet to stay in MLS, stay with the Union a little bit longer than McKenzie. And I'm a defender, so I was like, let me go with the defender. And of course, then he gets traded away. It goes along with our history of jersey buying. Me and Luke have a terrible history of buying Union jerseys. I loved having a left-footed center back play that left center role. I thought he was strong on the tackle. It was his I think his head got in the way sometimes. I think his decision-making sometimes was questionable, and he would make mistakes. His physical attributes, though, were fantastic. They will be missed. I understand, though, that he had lost his role, and we were able to get a good chunk of money as well as a 30% sell on if Colorado sells him. And so the business side of it tells me, okay, this is a good move because it's a guy who probably isn't going to play with us, wasn't going to be on the field anyway with McKenzie and Elliott. So financially, yeah, let's take the money now before he rides the bench for another year and loses any value. But I will miss him. I personally liked him.
Yeah, it always kind of sucks when we lose a homegrown just because we get a little more connected to those guys just because they come up through our system, so we feel a little more pride in seeing them on the field for us. So it's kind of a bummer to see them leave, but yeah, like AJ said, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing I was so happy that Ernst was able to get money, especially for Fafa. You know, he's a player who had no contract, and to get a little bit of money, I mean, hey, I'll take whatever it is. And so, like you guys said, I mean, it was pretty clear and obvious that Fafa wasn't going to come back, and the only way he would come back is by the union overpaying for him, and now he gets to go and start in an FC Dallas fan, which I'm hoping, you know, Fafa doesn't hurt us with that being the first game of the season in Dallas. But, you know, I think it just works out for everybody. It just works out for Fafa. You know, he gets a fresh start. It gets the union some money where they can invest it back into the club. And then Auston Trusty, I agree with you, AJ. I thought Mark McKenzie out of Auston Trusty would be the one leaving the union first because I thought his potential was a little bit higher than Auston. But it wound up that, you know, Auston Trusty, they, I guess, try to get a contract extension signed, and maybe he was asking too much money. And so it's like, well, you know, it's no point of going back and forth and everything. And we gave you chances to fight back into the team, but Colin beat you out, and especially Mark McKenzie and Jack Elliott. And it's like, you know, if you're not going to be happy here on the bench and everything, there's no point of upsetting the locker room, and we'll take the money we can get for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, take the money when you can.
Yeah, I think Ernst is smart about doing that, just not being too emotional and get connected to these players and making the right move at the right time.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to bring up is Harris Medunjanin. I mean, he came out with a quote and said that he felt like Ernst didn't value him. He never spoke to him. And do you think it was the right decision not to bring him back?
Oh, gosh, that's such a tough one. I mean, he had a fantastic year. He's always been a great player. It is weird that I guess he wasn't really valued by Ernst as much. But then again, you can tell that Ernst has a vision for this team. And Harris was not it. Ernst kept him this year, and Harris showed a little liabilities on defense, but he made up for it with his offense. With the way the Union played this year, he was kind of what we kind of said was almost the most irreplaceable player. Weirdly, even though he was kind of out of place in Ernst's vision, meaning the way he played the ball, the way he played the game, no one else on the Union team could play that way. There's no other player who could pass and settle in between the center backs to receive the ball and then play a ball to break the lines. So he was almost irreplaceable this year, but moving forward, he clearly was not a guy who fit Ernst's vision for the team, and it's not the way he wants a defensive midfielder to be playing. And he's very clear about what he wants, and Ernst isn't making any making light of it. He's got a vision. He's going to chase it, and that's that. He doesn't really care, it seems.
Yeah. He made it clear, like when he first came to the unit, that Ernst was like had this vision that he wanted to play a more pressing and attacking style. That Harris, was very clear that Harris isn't that type of player. So we thought even going into last year, he was going to get moved before the season started. And maybe Ernst just couldn't find the right replacement signing to make that move make sense. But this year I think it's all about Ernst's vision. So we're all in on what he wants to do. So we'll see what he replaces him with. But I think I trust Ernst Tanner with what he wants to do with this team.
It's not like we have much of a choice.
But we're confident. If we're not skeptical yet, but we're excited about what he's going to do. I think.
Yeah, I think all Union fans can agree. I mean, so far, Ernst has hit on pretty much every single one of his moves. And I know we didn't get to a couple players that I said I was going to bring up, and we'll still get to them in a second. But, I mean, kind of staying on that topic of what players Ernst is going to bring in and replace with the players that departed. Are you guys concerned that the Union haven't announced any signings yet? I mean, you look at a team like Kansas City, they just signed a striker for $5 million, and they're kind of in the same ballpark as us, a small market team and everything that doesn't spend too much money. I mean, are you guys concerned at all?
No, I do think a lot of it has to do with trying to get the Monteiro deal done. I feel like they are saving a lot of money for potentially getting that deal over the line. But I do think it is still early. I think this time last year we only had the Sergio Santos signings. He'll get a lot of business done in January like he did last year. So I'm not nervous yet. I'm just antsy. I think we always want to get a signing. We want to get excited about a new player to join this team. So it's more just as a fan, we just are impatient. But it shouldn't be too alarming to us.
I also feel like coming off of this last season where everyone was so hyped about the team, and I mean, more and more content's coming out about the team, and then the off season hits and we're all just kind of at this standstill waiting and waiting and waiting. And now nothing is happening for like 2 months. And we're just, there's nothing we can do other than
discuss Bimbo.
Yeah, that is definitely true and everything. And just, I mean, it does get discouraging when you see other MLS teams announce their record transfer fees and everything. But again, I mean, Ernst hasn't failed us, and I don't think he is going to. And I know he has his eyes set on a couple players and everything. It's just a matter of, okay, when's he going to get the deal over the line and everything. So I mean, I'm not worried yet. It's just, like you said, I mean, everybody's antsy and everything. It's just, let's get that first player in. But you mentioned Jamiro Monteiro a little bit earlier, Luke. Do you guys think that he's going to be coming back to the team next season?
I mean, I think just the fact that there is no news yet means that there's at least maybe a slim chance. I'm somewhat, I don't know, hopeful, I guess, that he'll be back. I would like him to be back, maybe on the right contract. I don't want them to spend all their money on the one player, but I think he proved last year that he's such a talented player that we would love to keep him on this team. But I mean, it seemed like it was also a difficult team to deal with, the Mets team, to just get the loan going, because there was such a delay to get him just to the Union the first time. So I don't know. It seems like it might be a difficult signing to make, but I guess there's still a chance.
Yeah, I just have to agree with what Luke said there. There's a chance. It might be difficult. It's got to be on the right contract. I don't want us to blow all of our money on him.
Yeah, there's still other holes to fill in this team that we can't just put all our eggs into his basket.
Yeah, I've been saying on this podcast that I believe the Union have the money to pay the transfer fee that Mets would want. I believe they have the money to give Jamiro the money that he wants. But the problem is, I think Jamiro is now turned 26. He's a player who I think still wants to play in Europe and everything. You know, he kind of lost his way at Mets and everything. It's why he got the loan to Philadelphia Union. I think he kind of rediscovered himself again and had joy playing football again, or soccer. I got to get out of that habit saying football. You know, I talk to Americans and we all say soccer, but I think he's a player that still feels like he has something to offer to some European team. Now it's whether or not Mets can find the right deal for him. I guess that's yet to be seen, but I do want to believe that the Union have the money to give Mets and Jamiro.
I was just going to say, bring up a good point about whether he wants to be here or not. If he feels like he can play in Europe, you don't want a player in your locker room and on the field who feels like they're not playing where they truly want to be. So you bring up a good point about that. If he wants to play in Europe, then he definitely should go and try his best over there and make his way.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another player that we brought over from Europe is Marco Fabian. Do you guys agree that it was the right decision not to pick up his option?
Yeah, I think it is. I think Marco, he did bring some value. He scored like 8 or 9 goals, and also obviously scored the most important goal of the season for us in the playoff game. But I do think it made sense to not re-sign him, because at the money he was making, and the amount of minutes he was playing, it just didn't make sense. He ended up being just like a super sub towards the end of the year. And not that like we should only rely on Brendan Aronson, but the fact that Aronson is capable enough to start the majority of the games like he did this past season shows that maybe Marco's more of a luxury signing, and we don't really have the need to keep him.
I do think he was a good signing. I think it was a signing that Sugarman and Ernst needed to make to show the fan base that this year was different. I think also kind of set the tone for the year going into the year. Like, this is not just another Union team that's kind of a bunch of pieces that we kind of scrounged together and were able to find. It included this Marco Fabian guy who we went out and we got, who we paid a little extra for than we have in the past, and who's a bigger name than we've had in the past. So I think it told the team, the fans, everyone that this is going to be a different year, and it set the tone before the season even started that you better be ready. This Union team's for real.
Now, what about Andre Blake? You know, this is unlike any season that Andre Blake's really had, and a lot of fans in the stands on Twitter were calling for Andre Blake's head and saying they want Matt Friesen, they want Joe Bendick in, and get rid of Andre Blake. What do you guys think?
Oh, this is a tough one, because you have to love Andre Blake. You have to respect the job he's done for the Union. In years past, he's literally the reason we've been in games, the reason we've picked up points, picked up wins, picked up ties in games that we had no business being in. And he's been such a vital part for this team. With that being said, I think we missed opportunity to sell him to Europe. I think we do have a young guy behind him who is very capable. And I don't know if I'm ready to say Freeze should be starting, but I think this year the leash might be a little shorter. I think the seat might be a little hotter for him. There might be a little more pressure. Yeah, and I kind of feel, and it kind of stinks because we were at the draft where he was drafted. Got a little picture with him, so we've always kind of had a spot in our hearts for him.
My cat is named Andre after Andre Blake too. So.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, so we definitely have a bit of a soft spot for Andre Blake, but
it was hard seeing him make some of those mistakes last year.
Yeah, and knowing that we have Freeze and Joe Bendick, who are two more than capable goalkeepers for MLS, maybe there's a chance that we could sell Andre Blake to maybe another team in MLS and save some money there and use those guys going forward. But I mean, I don't think it's like a necessity to move on from Andre Blake. He's definitely shown his value for us.
One thing I would like to see from Freeze before I make any big judgments would be how he is with his feet, because that's something I've always
that's Blake's big weakness.
Yeah, Blake with his feet is not someone who I have confidence in. I feel like every goal kick is just kind of a kick into the wind that lands about at midfield, if that. Yeah. When the ball's played back to him, I feel like he doesn't really have many ideas other than let me just blast it up into the air, and then again it maybe goes to midfield. And I feel like anytime he uses his feet, the team's automatically on the back foot.
And also this year, there's no Harris for an easy outlet that's knows how to get the ball out and cleanly. So it's definitely a concern there.
So I'm not ready to move on, but I would say the seat is getting a little warm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a thing that you're seeing in European soccer is managers are looking for goalkeepers that are really good with their feet. You see it at Manchester City with Ederson. You see with Greg Berhalter and the men's team, they want Zach Steffen to play out of the back and everything, and now it hasn't worked out the best and everything. You see Alisson for Liverpool, he can play out of the back with his feet good and everything. And I know I only gave 3 examples there, but I can keep going on and on, but nobody wants to hear that.
Oh, yeah.
But I just think that's just how soccer wants to go now, is a goalkeeper that's comfortable with the left and the right foot and that can distribute the ball comfortably out of the back and not feel under pressure. And, you know, goalkeeper was supposed to be the position that we were comfortable in. And that was supposed to be the position that we had no question marks, that we knew what we were going to get. And I feel like a lot of times this season, Andre Blake kind of let us down. And, I mean, granted, we had players like Casper or, like you said, Margaret Fabian came up with some goals, or El Sino. These guys kind of saved the day for when Andre Blake let us down. But I think he's a player that's capable of bouncing back because we've seen it in the past. But the last player I want to bring up is Ray Gaddis. I mean, everybody seems to want to move on from Ray. What are your thoughts?
Yes. Yeah, I think Ray's been an amazing guy for the team. Everyone knows how great of a person he is on and off the field, a guy who gives his full effort all the time. I think he did have some very strong games. A couple of his biggest games were, or I think his biggest game of all was the playoff game. I think you could tell how much it meant for him to be playing in a playoff game in Talon Energy against the Red Bull. I think he was one of the best players on the field that day. I remember watching, particularly in that first half, thinking, holy smokes, we look like crap, except Ray. Ray looks really good today. And you could tell how much it meant for him to be in that playoff game. And against Atlanta, too, I thought he had a pretty strong game for the most part. The rest of the season, though, it's just always been kind of a spot where we're always kind of weaker. And it's no secret. Part of me feels like the whole when Ray scores, we riot thing may have gotten into his head, because I feel like he pushed up and kind of forced the issue forward at times. And it forced Bedoya to kind of cover back, when I'd prefer to have Bedoya a little higher up rather than Ray. Where we go from there, I don't know. I don't know if Mbezo's the answer. I don't know if there's a place or a guy in Bethlehem who is the answer. So we might be stuck with Ray for another year. Luke, what would you say?
I agree with all that. It just seems like it's if we're looking into the offseason where to upgrade, right back is such an obvious one. Just because, we just know what Ray is. We love him as a person. He puts so much onto the field, but there's just a different level of quality that we could be achieving if we had an upgrade at right back. So it's tough. It's tough because he's just such a likable guy. So it's tough to move on from him, but I think it might be the right call.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, I mean, it's still undecided if we bring back Colin. It's like I don't want to see Ray get let go or anything like that, but I think he's a player that could be valuable coming off the bench, mentoring to these young teammates that are coming up through the steel. I think he's a guy who's been in the league for 10 plus years, who's seen pretty much all of it in MLS. And I think,
Yeah.
that's very, very valuable in a young locker room. And especially if you keep bringing in newer players from around the world and everything who've never seen MLS before, they could go to Ray and kind of pick his head and his brain and find out, okay, well, how do I handle this situation? How do I handle this moment? Or what's the atmosphere like in this stadium and everything? So I think Ray has a lot to offer with his experience and maybe not playing wise, which, we could always use him coming in when we play in the U.S. Open Cup games and everything. But I do think we need a right back upgrade, and maybe that's Mbazo, maybe it's not. But before I get into final questions, what are your guys' thoughts on the first playoff win against the New Jersey Pink House?
What a day. What a day. I mean, we were a nervous wreck before the game.
Yeah.
Luke more so than me. He was, I feel like I haven't seen this part of Luke, and I don't even know when. Like, he was so clammed up. He could barely drink a beer at the brewery, couldn't eat. It was for real.
I thought I was gonna get physically sick before the game. We were at 2SB at right before the game and I could barely put down one beer, and I was just so nervous. It was just such a big deal to us. We were having such a good time. This whole season was just an incredible ride. There's so many great moments. So we just were so afraid for it to end in a tragic fashion. And
then the first half happened.
Yeah, and we're just so dejected, and we were just like, of course, this is how it's gonna end. This incredible year. Yeah, crappy day.
And then how about Bedoya, man? His goal, and I feel like that was just Bedoya's year. Every time the team was needing something, he was there to pick them up, and it was just the most captain of captain years that I've ever seen from a guy on the Union.
And the Suns have been chance at the Union to wake the F up, and it was just a rallying call, and they dug themselves out, and it was just the most epic game and just the most unforgettable game for everyone there and everyone watching.
Now, were you guys at that game, or
and to have the guys? Yeah. So we were there. I think I grabbed about 4 of the free T-shirts that they were handing out, walking out. One thing I remember most was halftime, just sitting there in the rain, dejected, just being like, holy smokes. And then the rise, it was kind of like a wave.
Yeah, Jack Elliott go like, oh, okay, we have a chance. Mm-hmm. And then it just kept building and building, and it was just so incredible.
And for the guys to have scored that game, if you think about it, it's Bedoya scores. He had an amazing year. Elliott scores. He had an amazing year. Fafa scores, who's just been a Union guy that was his last goal for the Union.
Right.
And then the big signing of the year, Fabian scores. It was just kind of a neat metaphor for the year of these guys who are scoring, and with the way the crowd reacted to it all. It was just this huge wave of every Union thing that could have been Union was that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the river end, and a lot of people had went to the concession stands and everything, and there was a couple of people that had stayed there and everything, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to sit here looking sad. I'm going to go and pick people's brains, see what they think. And a lot of people were just getting on Andre Blake, but they're like, it's not over yet. Like, you got to believe in this team. Once they come out of the locker room, you got to show your support. Like, don't give up on them. Like, they feed off of our energy. It's like, yeah, we all chanting wake the F up, and I believe that did have an impact on the players. They knew that they played poorly. They knew that all these fans came out here to just sit in the rain and watch these guys play and everything. And it's like, man, we're really letting them down and everything. And I'll watch that YouTube video all the time. It's like a moment I'll never forget. And I'm so happy I was at the stadium. And, like you said, there's free T-shirts. It was funny watching people not coming to the seats. So people were just scooping bags of T-shirts and everything. So I was like, I won't be that guy, even though I was tempted and everything. But I was like, if people come and get their shirts, great. If they don't, then I guess somebody else is going to snatch them. So I don't remember an empty seat where there was no shirt. So it was just a moment that I'll never forget. And I'm so happy that I was there to witness. But I just want to get you guys' thoughts on what player last season surprised you the most.
Okay. I'll go with Casper. So, and Luke's mad because I took that one. I'll say Casper because I did not have him pegged to have that many goals. I remember early on the season, he was sitting at 4 goals. And on the podcast, I said, I think we've seen Casper be as good as Casper's going to be. I think he's a 4-goal guy. I think he got hot, scored a couple. I don't see him being that alpha type striker who's going to score more than this. And man, did he prove me wrong. And I'm so glad he did. He doesn't do it very flashy. He just is so clinical in the box. And I remember Jim had quotes saying, this guy's the best finisher on the team. But I feel if you look at him, he doesn't exactly look like this guy who's going to strike fear in the defender's eyes. And then he goes out there and he just puts together this season where I'm just like, holy smokes, like this guy can play a bit and he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. Luke,
yeah.
Who else do you got?
That was definitely going to be mine, but I'm a big Casper fan after this year. But I'll change mine to be Jack Elliott. I think he's always very underrated, but he's becoming one of the best center backs in the league. And every year he improves, and every year he looks like he's getting more confident, smarter, and like his passing is so good. I think I'm very confident going into next year with him starting in the back, and I think he just keeps proving it. He earned the contract, the new contract that he got this past year. So I was definitely impressed by him a lot this year.
So just like me, you guys travel up I-95 coming from the south heading up north. So if somebody's debating on going to a Union game next season, what do you guys say to them to get them to come out?
If you're questioning it, you got to do it. The words should not be in your vocab. And that's just a life lesson for everyone there. If you're just mediocre soccer fan, lukewarm on it, get to the stadium, experience it. It is such a cool game day experience. You're close to the field. You hear the players, you hear the coaches. It's just you hang out in the parking lot. The stadium's nice. It's just all the stuff makes it a real enjoyable experience. I took a group of friends up a few years ago who weren't necessarily soccer fans. It ended up being a 0-0 game against Portland. There was a big rain delay, and I apologized. I was like, sorry guys, I know it wasn't the most exciting game. And they all looked at me and said, AJ, that was awesome. That was such a fun night. And so it's not always about like the goals, but it's just the whole experience and that feeling you get in the stadium. You have to be there to experience it. And Talent Energy is just one of the prettiest stadiums in the league. So go and check it out.
Yeah, there's not a bad seat in the stadium. And there's something so unique about soccer games in general that, like, if you're just maybe a sports fan that haven't checked out a soccer game in MLS yet, just the fact that, like, there's a supporter section singing and chanting and playing drums the whole time and standing and supporting their team, that's pretty unheard of for most other sports. And the Sons of Ben and Keystone and State Ultras are so great and they're just always bring it every game. So and then the team on the field this past year and this upcoming year, like they're a quality team. They'll play some pretty soccer. So it's definitely worth checking out for everyone.
The last thing about a soccer game is when you're there, it's different than other sports in that your phone doesn't exist. Right. Meaning there aren't stoppages where you're like looking at your phone, updating your Twitter. When you're watching a soccer game, you're watching a soccer game for 90 minutes. You're not sitting there waiting for the next play, waiting for the next event to happen. It's just nonstop. And for the playoff game, I left my phone in the car. And I mean, you don't even know you don't have a phone because it's all about the game. It's all about the experience. And so it's just unlike any other sport. So please come out to the game. I know your other guests have said, hey, hit us up on social media, come sit with us. I mean, the same goes for the Doopy Brothers here. I mean, it's just such a welcoming environment. So please come out to the stadium if you're ever thinking about it.
Yeah, awesome. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. And before I let you guys go, can you guys let everybody know where to find you on social media?
So on Twitter, we're pretty active there. It's just at Doopy Brothers. And we put out episodes of our podcast every week. So you can find us on basically any podcast platform.
Simple enough. So it's like if you guys aren't subscribed to these guys, you definitely should, because I had a blast listening to your stories, getting your opinions, and just talking with you guys. And I can't wait to link up next season at the stadium and finally put a voice to the face and whatever the saying is, because I love connecting with the fans and just making a brotherhood, because when you're at the stadium and everything, I feel like everybody's your brothers and sisters there, and you're all there to support the same team, whether it's your first time, whether it's your 100th game. It's, you're all there to support the game, the team, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's right, man. And like I said, welcome to the podcast family. Everybody keep listening to Todd's stuff. It's fantastic. He's having great people come on, and we're so excited to have another Philly podcast.
Thank you so much, AJ and Luke, for coming on. Thank you for the kind words. And there's no better way to go off than the words that AJ just gave you guys. So with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.